Hello everyone, and in this video, I will be recapping Ouija and horror film from 2014. Subscribe and hit the bell to never miss a recap. And leave a movie suggestion in the comments for me to recap. The movie starts with two young girls, Lane Morris and Debbie Gallardi, playing with a Ouija board as children. They follow the game's traditional rules, such as never play alone and always say goodbye. The scene then transitions to them as teenagers. One evening, Debbie is home alone and finds an old Ouija board. Despite seeming hesitant, she decides to play by herself. Something unseen frightens her, so she puts the board on fire. When she meets up with Debbie outside, Debbie questions if she is okay, but Lane claims there is nothing wrong. When she goes back inside, unusual things are happening and goes upstairs to find the Ouija board on her bed even though she placed it on fire, and she sees something that possesses her. And shortly after, she is found dead, hanging herself. While Lane is out with her boyfriend Trevor and another friend of hers, Isabella, Lane's father tells her to come home and gets informed about what happened to Debbie, and she is in shock. Lane struggles to accept that Debbie would take her own life. Wanting answers, she gathers her friends Trevor, Isabel, Pete, and her sister to use the Ouija board in Debbie's house, hoping to communicate with her spirit. At first, the planchette moves, and they assume Debbie is speaking to them. The board spells "Hi friend," a phrase Debbie often used, convincing them she is present. The lights somehow turn off and Lane goes around the house to see what's going on. But then Pete goes up to a mirror and sees a reflection, so he's confused, but he gets pushed by something, so they decide to quickly leave the house. The next day, Lane is walking with Isabel, and Isabel tells her she was having weird dreams, and Lane tells her to just forget about everything. Later, when she gets home, Lane's aunt finds the Ouija board in her room, and she quickly tells her to don't use it to seek answers from the dead and get rid of it, but Lane lies about wanting to get rid of it. While Trevor is on a bike ride, he goes through an alley, but now he is starting to see things and random objects moving, but as he gets a closer look, he sees the wall in the alley has "Hi friend" written on it. While Isabel is getting ready to leave work, she sees a paper on her car window, and she also sees "Hi friend" is written on the window, and sees someone's hand in the car, but nothing is in there, which means she is also seeing things. Not long after, Pete gets a call from Isabel, but he seems frightened, and that's also cause he has "Hi friend" written on his desk. While Lane is home alone with her sister Sarah, they hear something, and the front door wide open, and as she yells who is there, the door shuts immediately on its own, so they go to hide. But when Lane peeks out the closet, her laptop also has "Hi friend" on it. The next day, when they are at school, they start talking about what was happening to them, and Lane is still convinced that it's Debbie trying to reach them, so they decide to use the board again. When Pete tries to tell Debbie something, he uses a trick and makes up a story about them, and she said she remembers. But now Pete knows something is wrong because he lied about the story he told, and now he knows it was never Debbie. The spirit behind the board is someone's initials with DZ. Lane looks to see who it is, and it's a girl with her mouth shut and another spirit, and the board flips over on its own, so they leave the house, and she says to never use it again. After the incident, Isabel is getting ready for the night. While flossing her teeth, she sees in the mirror that her mouth is closed shut with stitches, and soon she is possessed. She is lifted off the ground and dropped on her head, causing her to bleed out. The next morning at school, Lane is told what happened to Isabel, and as she tries to talk with Trevor, he is scared, saying the spirit is coming after all of them. With Trevor being distant towards Lane, she asks Pete for help. Lane and Pete decide to return to Debbie's house. They believe they need more answers about the spirit they contacted. Lane goes to the attic where Debbie found the Ouija board and finds a picture of a family she isn't familiar with. With a box of pictures Pete found, they go through it, and now they want to find out who are the people in the photos. They do research and find out that the person with initials DZ is named Doris Zander, a missing girl who was never found for decades. They see that Doris had a sister, and now they want to know how to get a hold of the sister of Doris. Lane visits a local mental institution and meets Doris's sister Paulina Zander. Paulina reveals that their mother was obsessed with communicating with the dead and forced Doris to use the Ouija board. Doris became possessed, and their mother sewed her mouth shut to silence the spirit within her. Paulina tells Lane that the only way to stop the hauntings is to find Doris's hidden body and cut the stitches on her mouth, so that her trapped spirit can be freed. Lane and her friends locate Doris's remains in the basement of Debbie's house. Following Paulina's instructions, they cut the stitches on Doris's mouth, only to realize they have made a terrible mistake. Instead of freeing Doris, they have released the true evil spirit. With the vengeful spirit unleashed, when Pete makes it home, he thinks he sees Debbie, but it's Doris, and Pete is confused. Doris screams, making Pete the next victim. Lane returns to Paulina, demanding the truth, Paulina coldly admits that she manipulated Lane into releasing her mother's spirit, not Doris's. Paulina knew the spirit would kill Lane and her friends, but didn't care. They go to their aunt for help and she lets them know they have to destroy Doris's body and the board since the spirit lives through both of them. They return to the house with Trevor and he gets thrown into the pool by Doris. Lane and Sarah find Trevor inside the house, but he is possessed and is turned into dust. Determined to stop the horror, using the Ouija board, they call upon Doris's spirit, who helps them fight back against her mother. Lane throws the Ouija board into the fireplace, seemingly destroying the evil spirit. Days later, Lane and Sarah try to move on, but Lane discovers the planchette from the Ouija board sitting on her desk. As she looks through it, a dark figure appears behind her, hinting that the nightmare is not over. Thanks for watching until the end, and if you made it this far, make sure you subscribe for more breakdowns.